since the beginning of the railway era, rural railways have always had a special charm, even magic, something which artists, photographers and filmmakers especially have reflected in their works. Many authors too have used rural railways to great effect. This type of line varied from the short branch line of just a few miles to stretches of considerable length. An example of the latter was the line which eventually ran from Carmarthen to Aberystwyth. The journey, a distance of 56 miles, took a leisurely 2 3/4 hours to complete and included no less than 21 intermediate stations. The passenger service was not frequent, 4 trains a day either way being the norm. However, on the freight side, wool, livestock, milk and timber provided much of the line's revenue.
Well, the railway first came to Bronwydd in the year 1860 as part of the Carmarthen to Cardigan line. And at that date there were tremendous crowds and a lot of junketing and a big feast in the Ivy Bush afterwards because the line opened all the way up to Conwell Station. It was 4 years later before it got to Llampumsaint.
Well, I'm not the oldest here by any means, but the first memories I have of the railway line, I was born on a farm a mile from here, which you can see now, and we used to see the trains passing up to Pencader first thing in the morning, and we knew exactly what time it was. It was our clock.
Well, my first memories of being involved or knowing about the railway was when the royal train went up through the village.
The Queen came this way in the early 1950s. She was on her way to open an extension to the National Library in Aberystwyth and was told apparently on the train that she was coming to a village, and she got up from a settee or whatever she sits on in the train and waved to them in the station here.
A lot of people initially were scared of going on the train, and Thomas Evans, who was the station master at Llampumsaint, he thought, we've got to persuade these ladies to go on the train to go to Carmarthen rather than continue going in their carts. So what he did, he offered free rides to some of the ladies, and off they went eventually. And of course the train journey now, instead of taking 2 or 3 hours, they were down in Carmarthen in half an hour or so, very comfortable, and back they came with their baskets on the train in the evening. And after that, it was plain sailing. Everybody used the train.
Yes, I didn't live in Llampumsaint. I lived in London, but I always remember coming down from Paddington to Carmarthen and the thrill of crossing the platform, getting on the little train to Aberystwyth. It was absolutely wonderful.
Well, my interest in railways started, obviously, because my father was an engine driver. He worked mainline from Carmarthen to Cardiff, and also on branch lines such as the Gwili.
Well, my great-grandfather was the first station master. He used to help the village people because a lot of the village people didn't go to school in them days. And when they used to get a letter from any relative or friend, he used to read their letters for them because they couldn't read and write. So he was a very beneficial man in the actual village. And without just being on the railway, he also owned the railway pub and also the post office. And he was a coal merchant as well. A little bit of an entrepreneur he was.
Llampumsaint station was much busier than Bronwydd eventually, because you had quite a large coal yard there with the proprietor of the railway hotel and his famous horse Polly coming up and distributing the coal to various people.
The main Carmarthen to Aberystwyth line was one of the many lines recommended for closure by the Beeching Report of 1963. And in early 1965, it did close completely for passenger traffic.
It was a great shame when the Carmarthen to Aberystwyth line was closed.
The line closed completely in 1973 when the Milk Marketing Board at that time transferred the milk traffic onto the road.
The railway workers did their best to keep the railway open, because when I was working in London, although I caught the train in Carmarthen, the ticket was always bought in Llanpumsent, because their existence depended on how many people travelled on the line.
Everybody in the village were disappointed that the train would not run anymore.
I was here when the last train went through, and lots of people went actually on the train to make it that they were on the last train.
It's an expensive business to run the train, because you had to have a station master, well, more than one during the day. And there were these small halts and stations all the way to Aberystwyth.
Generally, people didn't want the train to stop.
As one chapter of our story closed, another was about to begin. In many parts of the country, the savagery of the beaching plan was followed by plans on the part of dedicated enthusiasts and preservation societies to reopen at least sections of lines that had been closed, usually with the added attraction of steam-hauled trains. West Wales was no exception, and although a 1972 initiative failed, 2 years later, a scheme was suggested that would preserve an 8-mile stretch of the line between Gwili Junction, just outside Carmarthen, and Llanpumsent as a steam tourist railway. The Gwili Railway Company was formed in 1975, at a time when the track was still in situ, but had begun to be lifted. British Rail's hard-nosed and unsympathetic attitude meant that by their deadline of September 1975, the company had been able to purchase from them only 1 mile of track. The rest was systematically dismantled by British Rail. In spite of this, the company pressed ahead with determination, and by the end of 1977, the necessary light railway order had been obtained. And soon after, all the 8 miles of track bed from Gwili Junction to Llanpumsent were acquired by the company.
Although the line was purchased from Carmarthen to Llanpumsent, there was no road access at the Carmarthen end. So the first station out of Carmarthen was Bronwydd Arms. It had a platform, it had a yard. That meant then we could start running trains.
If I remember correctly, when I first came down, I was an actual paying passenger on the train, and my father, because I came down with my father, and my father got talking to the guard, and they were like, we could do with more help.
Well, I came about to work on the Gwili Railway through my husband, because he is the press officer here.
Well, mainly, publicity, dealing with newspapers, magazines, posters, this sort of thing, advertising events. But also, like many volunteers on the railway, you find yourself involved in other things.
They were short of catering staff, and he asked me if I would mind doing some catering.
So then we came down for one weekend, and I just me and my father, we just loved it, and we haven't left this place since.
I think when I first came down, fitting into the railway was very easy. It was a very friendly place. It was very exciting as a young boy to kind of be actually working on a real railway.
I got involved in the railway aged 11. Quite a young apprentice to the railway, I suppose.
When I first came down, I was basically doing TTI and things like that, little things. But now that I'm a little older, I do tend to go on to a lot more things that I can do, like trainee guard, trainee fireman.
When I first started working on the railway, my job was as a travelling ticket inspector. So I used to ride up and down on the train, checking people's tickets, making them feel welcome, helping them if they needed it.
I fell in love with this project because it was difficult. Because it wasn't handed to us on a plate, you had to work for it. Really got stuck into it.
I've gained a huge amount from working on the railway. I guess one of the big things is working with people, both the fellow volunteers, meeting passengers from all kinds of different countries and backgrounds. And there's a great sense of satisfaction, the sense that you do a day's work and you run the railway for a day.
And I think it's given me an awful lot, actually. I've done various things on the railway, from manual work through to dealing with passengers and customers, organising events. And it's taught me an awful lot, and I'm quite convinced that it enhanced my education and gave me a focus early on in life.
There's more people involved in it now, and it's become a lot more commercial.
Since I joined the railway in 1999, we've built the extension to Danacoed, But I've also seen a lot of other improvements made. The building of the toilets at Llwyfan Cerrig, the reconstruction of the platform at Bronwydd. General improvements all round, really. And it's a story of the railway that everything is looking a lot smarter than it did, and providing better facilities for our visitors.
I think the railway has changed in the time that I've been here quite dramatically. Buildings like the one that we're sitting in now, this is a Great Western Railway signal box from the Victorian era. This was brought here and rebuilt. The station buildings on the platforms, you see, I mean, they've all been brought here from other railway stations and rebuilt, because when this line was abandoned in the 70s by British Rail, everything was dismantled. Not one building was left standing.
The railway has grown. It's still as friendly as it was, but I think it's become much more professional, much more focused around where it's going and its aims and objectives, much more focused around what the passengers want. And if you look at how we've developed, we still run our regular service.
The portfolio of events that the railway is able to offer, Thomas the Tank Engine, Santa specials, jazz trains, we've done live theatre on the railway, we've had weddings, no funerals yet.
Anyone that's come down to see Thomas the Tank Engine here will see what a well-run organisation this is, and how much people enjoy coming here.
Our immediate plans for the future are to build a station at Carmarthen and to be running trains from Carmarthen through Bronwydd Station up to our current terminus.
I think the benefits of Carmarthen North will be great for this railway. Yeah, it'll be great, it'll be longer, but more of the fact of it'll be easier access, more facilities down here, bigger car park. No, there's lots more things. I mean, there'll be a big carriage shed down there, so we'll be able to take on larger projects on the carriages and so on.
As beautiful a place as Bronwydd is, it's very small, and to bring the 2,500 passengers per day that a Thomas the Tank Engine event might attract to Bronwydd is a mammoth task.
Bronwydd Arms Station really was never designed for what it's doing now, and we've done the very best we can with it. But on busy days, for instance, we have to use park and ride and bring coaches in.
There's been a lot of groundwork being done on that, studies being made, business plan being developed, and we're now in a position where we're going to be applying for what we hope are major grants.
By nature of the work that's involved, the project is not going to be fully done by volunteers. There are roadworks, drainage, electrical, groundworks, which all need to be done, which are beyond the scope of our volunteer workforce. I mean, that's if we want it done this side of 2020. So the contracted work has been costed at about £5.5 million, which is a very large amount of money. I mean, Carmarthen North will open up opportunities for local businesses to get involved with this company and to develop their business. So it'll be a partnership helping each other out, and obviously looking for grant awarding bodies that might be able to help us fund the project. There are tremendous opportunities open, and Carmarthen North will really open those up to us.
Gwili Rail coming here has been a very good thing for the area.
We're looking beyond just being a ride on a steam train.
And I think at the moment, really, the railway has got so much potential and is really pushing forward.
I think it would do Llambimsent in this day and age a world of good if the train could come this far.
As soon as the railway came back, you felt a bit of life had come back into the area.
One day, I look behind me here, and the track that's behind me through this window, I hope to see a train coming up it.
I think the extension to Carmarthen North is essential for the railway.
But I'm confident that the will is certainly there from the Gwili Railway, and I think the will is there from the public in general.
When you speak to anybody today and they would say, well, we wish we could have that line back.
Just a few years' time, we're going to be seeing steam trains back into central Carmarthenshire.